we got stuff to do here. I'm gonna do some vegetable cutting. Some very great vegetable cutting. You're gonna learn how to cut all these vegetables the way I like to cut them. And if you like to cut them differently, well, you can use this as a base to find your own way. I think I'm gonna start with onions, because they look cool, but I'm gonna grab gloves. Trust me, these were washed. I said onions first, and that means I have to move all my friends. And I'm friends with vegetables, because humans are too intelligent, and they know I'm nuts. I think you should always start cutting your onions by removing these guys right here on both sides. So, and I just cheaply sharpened this knife, so it should be decently nice. I didn't give it a proper what it deserves, but oh yeah, that's nice. I go straight down and away from me. You never want to cut towards you, like you can, there's certain situations, but in situations where it's a tall vegetable and you're doing your prep and you're new and you're watching a video on how to do, don't do next level stuff. Don't cut towards yourself. It's dangerous. I'm dangerous. Don't be dangerous. Same thing though. Go like that. I'll do two different ways because I have two different white onions, but straight in half. Remove the first layer of skin, like that. Oh, being tricky are we? You can be less frugal with your scraps. First, set. Next, onion again. Like this, like that. Then you can take your knife and you can go around the edge and remove it so you have a whole onion, right? Now, we can make some rings, and we can make some diced onions. Maybe I'll do like a fine dice with one, and like a 1/4-inch dice with the other, I don't know. Do rings with this guy. So, rings, I have pretty stable hands, I have pretty nice hands, they're pretty beefy, they're pretty creepy looking, you know. But, this isn't the easiest thing. For some people, I see them make a little notch like that on the side, and then they go like this, and they start, again, cutting downwards and away. Because if you cut towards yourself, you might, you know, take off a piece of your skin, you know, cut your nice apron, or your stomach. You don't want that to happen. And you'll notice, not every one of these is going to be a circle. A, because onions are weird inside. They're like all going to be weird style circles, but not all will be circles. And not everything's perfect. Not all your cuts are going to be great. But look, we got some rings. Look at them. Oh, look at those rings. Look like Sonic right now. Albino Sonic. Alright, yeah, that's great. I say, let's do fine dice, and then, I don't know, like 1/2-inch, 1/4-inch, just regular dice, not too fine. And we're not selling plates here by any means. I start on the outer edge, and I'm not going all the way through. I'm going most of the way through. And some people will say, cut this way. If you cut at the right angles, you don't need to do that. And I'm going to do the 1/4-inch dice first. I've gone almost all the way through. So it's still together, but it won't fall apart. It makes it easier for when you go to cut. The only time I would recommend doing this is when you are well versed in cutting. But the reason they have you go through this way is to make even pieces here and make it more even. Because like I said, the onion's kind of asymmetrical inside, and you won't be able to, if you're going straight down, these pieces will be longer, right at the front. So, if you are well versed in your onion cutting, you can start by going a little bit towards it, so you still have that somewhat square dice, and then go back to what you're doing. Now, some people will recommend when you are new, make sure your knife does not go off the table. I'll give you that example. I've gotten to the edge of where my almost through cuts were, so you'll see that I tilted this onion down. Now, I will make sure the knife doesn't leave the table, so I can give an example of how you should cut. But once you get quick enough and safe enough, cut how you will, just be safe. And I could have done that same thing by going almost all the way through, and it would have saved me having to like find these pieces. But for the most part, with a couple of outliers, that's what you want for a soup. This is a quart cup. A quart, 4 cups. This is probably just under 2 cups if I got the air out of it, pressed it down a little bit. So half an onion, like two loose cups of diced onion. Now, I can be a little bit more showy of the safety and how you should be safe with your cutting when doing the fine dice. Ready? And I'm at an angle. You should always be straight in front of you. You should never be leaning over your board. This is to convenience you. But again, I'm gonna go about this much through, leaving just this much uncut. And I'm going straight down, not going towards myself whatsoever, just straight down. I'm gonna even off the edge, leave this over here, I'll add that to the, those guys. Again, I'm gonna make a little bit of a towards my hand cuts, which I don't want you to do unless you're ready for it. And then even off where we angled. And again, you can, I hate when people are like, don't let your knife leave the cutting board. Sometimes it needs to leave the cutting board. Like, sometimes you just have to use your noodle. I swear they tell that to people who like are new culinary students or like new in the kitchen because they're extra afraid you're gonna do something. Here's what I'd have to do with my giant misshapen hands to make it not leave the cutting board to fine dice. I'd have to lift it this far up and be at an angle where if it goes a little higher, it will cut my knuckles. So, instead, I'm rocking. I'm doing this, essentially. You've probably seen me do it in other videos. And then right then, you just saw me tilt down the end, right when we got to the very edge of where we went almost all the way through. And to give a better example of what I should have done with the last onion, now I take the uncut segment and do a smaller version of what I was just doing. And when it's that small, yeah, don't let your knife leave the cutting board. Then it's fine. Don't worry about it. Those are your fine diced onions. Rings. They're nice. Alright. Next. Wipe off your board, you degenerate. Alright. I'm gonna be quick with this one. This is a little red onion. I'm gonna do it the way I want in a salad. You know, I like little ring guys. Half rings in my salad. So what we talked about earlier, what we talked about earlier twice, what we talked about earlier thrice. You know, we keep going. Something like that. Put that underneath your feet. You should watch out. I just put an onion peel under your feet twice. I like going with the little ring guys, but some people argue and they're like, go that way. We'll do both. Right? And we'll see which one you like better, and you can do it the way you like it better based on how it looks. Now this one's not too tall. I can actually keep the blade on the table. Flip it down. And I'm going all the way through. And it's harder to get to the edges when you do it this way, so I digress. And you know what I say to the people who go, cut it the other way? They look the same. Let's move on to this. This is a green cabbage. It's organically grown, but I washed it anyways, made sure it was extra washed because I don't trust people who say it's organic. Whew, those onions are old, I'm crying, I'm sweating, oh my god, hold on, give me a second, Chad. Now, some people say that's the age of your onion. Some people say it's how you cut it. I've cut onions in multiple different ways depending on how new or old they were. Onions I grew, onions I got from a special vegetable delivery service, all that stuff. I find that it's how old I think the onions are. Because if your onions are older, they tend to make you cry more, in my opinion. I think those red onions were old. Whew. I gotta change my gloves and wash my hands because I touched my face even though it was through a rag. Wash your hands, keep people safe. Now, I imagine if you are finding this video because you want to cut a cabbage, you want to do it for a coleslaw. That's cool. Ready? I hate this part. Just like lettuce, it's like you can't do it. You can cook this down, but nobody wants that in their cabbage. You want it in your cabbage while it's growing. So I go like that. And normally there's another way where you cut straight through the center. No. Then do it towards you, alright? So you get the best view. I already noticed this little cut. I don't know if somebody was extra mad at this cabbage while they were pulling it off from the ground. You know what? Whatever. But poor thing. I think it was abused. That. And then you can see how much of the core you still need to get. Not too bad, eh? Go straight through here. Move those two over there. And the core is gone. And such less waste. I always see people do through the center and then they waste half my cabbage. And I'm like, please don't. If you're trying to make coleslaw, it's kind of, the pieces are all different lengths. Don't worry about it. You make it easier for your hand. My hands are giant. My knife's big. You make it easier for yourself. Cut it in half. I would have done that whole thing, but it's like fine dicing. And then you can turn your cabbage while you do it if you're well versed enough in cutting. But if you're not, please don't. You'll cut your hands. Look at that, very nice. Ready for your coleslaw. You can do a little finer than me maybe. Maybe you're better, maybe your hands are more nimble. Mine aren't. See, it's simple. You just gotta don't space your cuts too much and you cut good for your coleslaw. You know, if you're very picky, even though I find these in my coleslaw even at a restaurant all the time, you can pick out all the chunkier guys. Beautiful, right? I like it. Moving on. Now I'm gonna put some cabbage there. Now your toes are gonna smell really interesting. Oh yeah, very nice. Next, peppers. I washed these suckers earlier, but sometimes I have to check. Make sure I got them little tags that they put on there. That from what I have heard, apparently, the little stickers, I think it's like the FDA. This could be a rumor. My chef told me this at work. He was like, "Yeah, those are edible. They have to be edible in case people miss it. They're not supposed to taste good, and don't try to eat them because I don't know if that's just a rumor. I don't recommend it. Do your own hecking research. If you mind bleeping me out, I was a bad boy." There's so many ways to cut peppers. I'll show you how I was taught, and I think it's the incorrect way, and I'll show you how I was taught with the other pepper from somebody who cuts peppers for a freaking living. Well, not a living, but they cut a lot more peppers than the person who originally taught me. Whatever. I'm gonna show you two types of ways to cut this. You can spin your pepper right at the top, not going all the way through. Go like this, you lift up the edges around the green part, the stem. Pull the stem off, intact. You got that right there. Now some people, they go, okay, I'll do this, 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 and this. And it cuts off most of the white part. It doesn't disrupt too many of the seeds. That's one way of doing it. I think that's time consuming. I've heard people say, some parts don't taste that great. I disagree. I grow great peppers, but these aren't mine, so maybe these peppers are not great. I don't know. All the parts of my peppers taste amazing. Like I said in a video before, or maybe a video after, I don't know when I did it, but cut the inside of your peppers. Don't cut the outside of them. Don't cut it down like this. It's dull. Like the outside's gonna snap. There's more likely of a chance for the edges to snap. It's so much cleaner less snappy sound. It's just, and this is a freshly sharpened blade. So, cut like that. If you want dice, these were little sticks, like half sticks because it's the top of the pepper. If you want dice, I suggest cutting, I'll show you a better dice with this pepper, but I suggest going through like that, keeping your stack, and after you turn them, go through the same way you did. If you saw with the onion, it's a lot less conventional to go and then cut the edge that was holding it together. You can do that if you have trouble keeping your vegetables together. I don't think that's a good way of doing it, but you can. I just proved to you it's possible. Now I have two different types of piles, you can see, but now we're gonna get sticks together for your salad. Like that. Move them over here. Now, I want to prep everything that I'm cutting up, so I'm going to be quick with it. Finish off this onion. Not onion. Finish off this pepper. Now. Like I was saying, there's a lot of ways to cut these. I don't really know which one's my favorite, but I like to get bigger pieces. So I go like this, and I get like the biggest, most even-sized pieces I can get. Those are pretty even. Normally one's going to be a little bit asymmetrical compared to everybody else. You can take a smaller little knife if you want, and this is where you got to be a little careful. Get rid of the inside. Do the same thing with this if you want to. You can kind of just scrape it out. I see people scrape it. I've worked in kitchens where like there's just 3 people doing this. Throughout the day you just see people going. Not good for the knife, what I just did in the cutting board. And you should never do that because I do it and I sharpen my blade all the time, but that does dull out your blade. Now, I just noticed my hands touching my face. I have to change this glove, but the pepper did not touch my face. This is something you can do once you get better, but it's basically what I did with these long boys. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm not gonna dice these because I want these in little sticks. But, and again, I'm off the table, alright? It's getting a little risque here, you know. But I'm rocking the blade, and I'm keeping my knuckles tucked. Now towards the end, your structure, your little statue over here, the 3 tall pepper statue, it's gonna fall. So towards the end, lay them out. Keep yourself safe, you know what I mean? And then you can just, once they're in a line, beautiful. We're going to push these by your toes so I can grab them later on. There you go, have some celery. Celery, I have people argue with me all the time. One of the chefs who taught me how to cook at work, he was like, hey, don't cut too much of this off the top. This is what's exposed to all the chemicals being sprayed and whatever farming, I don't care. So I'm very, not frugal. I'm very, there's good words for this, but I cut a crap load of that off. I compost and I make my own soil. Do the same if you know how to do that correctly. Look it up. But this isn't going to waste. This is going to be feeding people. Looks like my hand's bleeding, but it's just a little bit of a little pepper guy. He's gone. So, I like to wash these a little bit more thoroughly, but I did that in the painful way by separating each of these and yada yada yada. I already did that. If I'm cutting for a soup, and I'll give you 2 different soup cuts, go straight through, right? And for one, I'm going to go down the lines as cleanly as I can. Maybe I'll remove this one because it's hanging over the other ones. And this is for people who, again, have trouble, like with onions. If you have your vegetables falling apart on you all the time, leave most of the bottom intact. Don't cut all the way through. It'll make your life easier. You're going to throw this away anyways. Then, this is your basic dice. You could use this in the soup. You could use this in the start of the stock, maybe. And I go just about, I went a little far, but I can break these up, or I can just cut through them again. Little cubes. You know, some of them are cubes, but for the most part, little cubes. Gonna make another little pile by your toes. I hope you took a shower recently. Put that off to the side for the compost. Now, the other way. If you are somebody who likes soup, and you like the little guys inside of your soup, the little N's or little U's, depending on what way they end up in your spoon. Keep them together. Don't cut through them at all. And do basically the same thing. If you have smaller hands, or you're not as convinced you can do that, get a smaller pile together. Heck, if you need to, do it one at a time. And you'll hear that little... That's because this is dangerously a little over the edge. Make sure your cutting board is not over the edge of your table. We got anywhere from small little happy faces, big little happy faces. Lowercase letter M, uppercase, kind of, not really, larger, his big brother. Put those over here, finish off the last one. Doo-doo-doo, I made those for you. Alright, watch out, by your feet again, off to the side. Hey, controlled chaos, right? We got compost, we got the not so fine dice, the fine dice, the hoop guys, they're gonna be cooked. The not hoop guy peppers, red and yellow. Celery, cubed, tiny little cubes. Yellow onion, yellow pepper, that's the second time I've done that. Yellow pepper, the smaller version of those guys. Celery, more celery, but in the smiley form. We have cabbage, uncut cabbage, red onion. We got it all. I don't know how you keep getting on my fridge. You're like my cat, and it's adorable, but don't break my fridge. If you liked the video, please like. If you disliked it, thumbs down. And I'm sorry you didn't like it. You're here, so I imagine you did. Comment what you want me to see cut. This was just some normal, typical vegetables. It might not be the vegetables you need. Let me know. Subscribe. Ring the notification bell. That'd be really nice. And thank you for watching. And I'll see you next time. Bye.